For those of you that are new to Tech for Good, I'll do a quick introduction before we run through an agenda and invite our panelists to share some of the great work they've been doing. Tech for Good Brighton is really a local community initiative. It's quite a new one. We try to help ensure that digital tech can be used to create positive social impact locally. We're really passionate about that aspect of harnessing the good things about technology and making sure it helps us do better and greater work in our local communities. We launched this initiative about 1.5 years ago, I think, and we've recently been working in collaboration with Community Works, hence Fabia being here as co-host, mainly through the Digital Brighton and Hove Partnership, which some of you might be familiar with. It's a citywide digital inclusion program, which is led by Citizens Online, which happens to be the charity I work for. So there's quite a bit of a link there, a connection there. We have around 15 Tech for Good groups, I think, across the UK, and we work in a very collaborative way with other communities, sharing best practice, ideas, and yeah, all sorts of learnings from across the country, which is very exciting. Through the local group, we're a team of just 2 now, myself and Ellie, with some help from Fabia and her colleagues at Community Works, depending on the theme and the session we're running. We also get some support, of course, from Citizens Online, the organisation I work for, in terms of having a bit of spare time to organise these sessions. And from Clear Left, who's the local design agency who hosts our physical events in their lovely venue on Middle Street. So thanks to them for supporting. We've been running mainly physical, but also some online events recently. Some sessions are really quite practical around tools and techniques, for instance, on assistive technology, on accessibility and digital accessibility, data strategy, all those kind of practical sessions. And we try to balance that with more social sector themes. For instance, we've done sessions on homelessness, on digital inclusion, as well as bigger tech for good topics, which we get excited about, like ethical tech, how to use tech more responsibly, and digital democracy, how can we use technology to engage more with people, which is kind of part of what we're doing this session on. So it's quite exciting to look at how we can do that with our own kind of service users and members we work with on a daily basis. More recently, during the COVID-19 pandemic, we started doing more sort of peer support through informal breakfast sessions, so group sessions, like digital surgery style sessions, if you like, and also one-to-one support through digital matchmaking with tech volunteers. Organizations coming with an ask or challenge and trying to match them with some volunteers from the Tech for Good community who can help and provide support. The key aim for us, just to finish, I think, is really the learning opportunities that comes through these sort of open collaborations. Quite passionate about being open and collaborative and sharing the skills and the know-how that we have across sectors to support one another and to try and really match this kind of skills and those resources with the needs. I know a lot of us are facing many challenges currently, so there's, I think, no better time to really kickstart this sort of networks. And really the focus is to try and build that trusted peer support network in our local and regional area. So yeah, great to have you here. I think this particular series, this particular session today is, we want to sort of explore how organizations like many of yours are needing to shift digital service delivery, partly as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic and social distancing and all the implications of this kind of new way of life we're all facing. So that's kind of the idea behind this session today, and we hope to run them monthly with different themes covering this kind of shift to digital.
Really great to see so many people here, and this is a fantastic turnout. I know that many of you either know me and or know Community Works, but for those who don't, very briefly, we are the membership organisation, the infrastructure organisation for the voluntary and community sector locally. We work across Brighton, Hove, Eyre and Worthing, and we have about 600 member organisations ranging from absolutely tiny volunteer-led groups right the way up to multi-million-pound registered charities. My role at Community Works is sector support manager, which means I have oversight for the direct support and advice and guidance that we give to member organisations. So that's everything from our training programme supporting with conferences, our mentoring program, but also the volunteer centre, so brokering volunteers into roles within the voluntary sector. And just really excited about this event because I think, as David said, we're very conscious that a lot of organisations have had to really change their service models quite dramatically recently. And much of the stuff that's happening effectively and quickly has been the one-to-one support. But we also know that there are some fantastic examples, and we've got 3 today, of ways in which people have really managed to create community in an online space. So absolutely delighted that we're going to be doing that. And as David said at the beginning, we've got the 3 speakers, so there'll be a chance to hear from them and hear about what they've been doing and how that's worked, and some quick opportunities for any questions on that. We've then going to break you out into breakout rooms, which hopefully will work incredibly smoothly. And at that point, you'll have a chance to introduce yourselves to each other and get some really quick thoughts. We'll talk about that a bit more, but a quick sort of what your thoughts have been about the sessions, what you've learned, what you want to feedback, and we will ask you to come back and anybody who wants to give some feedback at that stage. And then there's going to be some resources shared, and then your thoughts on anything that you want to do further on.
Before we do that, it'd be great to see who's joined us. There's quite a few of you, and we're just going to run a couple of polls to get an idea of what kind of organisations are here with us today, and the sort of work you're already doing around building those sorts of online communities that Fabia mentioned. So you should be seeing a question: what type of organisation are you representing today? A registered charity, a community group, or an unincorporated association, a social enterprise or community interest company, a business, so private sector sort of company, public sector organisation, or your freelance sole trader, or none of those. I'm just going to end the poll and share the results. So the majority, 67% registered charities. We've also got some social enterprises, just under 20%. A couple of businesses, great. And a couple of local authority representatives from local authorities, as well as 1 freelance sole trader. It's really good. I think that the focus of this session is really trying to help those community organisations and those charities. So it's no surprise that the majority, around, was it 85%, from that sector. Some of our other sessions will have a real sort of divide of like 50% social sector, 50% private sector, depending on the theme. So thanks for that. We'll move on to the next poll. Are you currently building online communities? If I launch that now, you'll see beyond the options you have is yes, we were already doing some of this before social distancing, so before COVID-19 kicked in. Yes, social distancing has forced us to do more online. No, not yet, though we want to engage more with our groups online. Or no, this has never been a priority and still isn't. You're just curious or interested in these issues. I'll end the poll there and share the results.
It's really great to see in the Google Doc as well. There's quite a few comments around specific online engagement that people have been trying out, and yeah, I'm sure we'll get a chance to talk about that in a bit more detail in our breakout rooms as well. So interesting stuff. Lots of people being forced to do more stuff online since social distancing.
Yeah, thanks, Ellie. I've not looked at the Google Doc yet. Glad there's some sort of some people are sharing some info on there. It's great. We've got 25, a quarter of you are already doing. We're already doing some of this work before COVID-19. Over half of you, just over half of you, feel like this is a timely moment to think about this, as we're all forced into doing more online. And then about 6 of you, 20%. Not yet, that you want to engage more with your service users, your groups online. So great. Hopefully this session will be helpful based on the talks we're going to hear and some of the resources we're going to share. And we are going to have some talks now, which is very exciting. We've got Tim and Teresa from Brighton Table Tennis Club, David from Grace A Foundation, and Rebecca from White Sussex. So a couple of charities are going to share some of the work they've been doing around building online communities. And because we really want to encourage cross-sector collaboration, it's great to have Rebecca from White Sussex, who've been doing a lot of work with their members online, building their communities online through different channels, as well as a number of events. So it'd be great to hear what you're doing, Rebecca, from that side. First of all, I'd like to invite Tim and Teresa from Brighton Table Tennis Club.
Thank you. Well, I think Tim has it just texted me, the power of having your iPhone next to me, and said, yeah, Teresa, you can lead this one. So I'll start it going, and Tim can chip in when he feels the need. So yeah, I'm Teresa. I'm head of development at Brighton Table Tennis Club. I've only actually been there since September. I'm a sort of ex-PE teacher of 30 years and led the Hastings Roberts School Games Partnership, but have known Tim and the club for many years. So yeah, it's been an incredible time in many ways. You know, I think we've adapted superbly, and of course the reason is because of our incredible members, and we did not want to lose touch with them. So we have sort of shifted online. So almost as soon as we got word from Sport England and Table Tennis England, our governing bodies, that, you know, we needed to close the club, we went straight on to try and have as many sessions as we could online, and people adapted very quickly. So 15 sessions a week, which include the daily show. We're on day 77 today, so at 5 o'clock me and Tim have to zip off to go and to do that. The photo on the right is the show 50, where we had over 50 members. We have special guests. We've had all the top England players. It's been a pleasure, both Paralympians, Olympians, they've all said yes. Nobody said no to coming on the show. And every week, not only have we got obviously the daily show, we've got yoga classes, fitness classes for different members. So we've aimed the fitness gold at our 50 plus members and those who've got more mobility issues. We have those on Mondays and Fridays. Our head coach Pedro runs incredible table tennis skills sessions at home on Saturdays, on Tuesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, and the BTTC radio with Nick Crill's been an incredible one that sort of blossomed after a couple of weeks. So yeah, we keep a record on our upshot of who comes, and that's been superb. So David, if you could maybe move the slide on, I'll chat away, and then I'm sure Tim will let us know if I've missed anything. So
sorry,
obviously,
Teresa, have you said, or are you going to say, just the numbers of people that we've had, the sort of top line?
Well, that's incredible. Do you know what? I didn't make a note, so Tim, please feel free. Have you got the?
Well, so we started. The club closed on the 18th of March.
Yeah.
And then in the next 2 months, to the 18th of May, we had over 150 different people come on to over 100 different sessions, over 2,500 times. So that was in the first 2 months, and there's been another month since then. So we're just running a report. Yeah, so it's been Zoom. We've never used Zoom before. I think there are issues with Zoom, but we've managed to run it quite securely, haven't we, Teresa? It's not been.
Yeah, no, I think it's yeah. We quickly had to adapt and learn and ring in lots of our members to try and get them on there. That's been one of the hardest things. But we, as many of you may know, that Brighton Table Tennis Club, I mean, our main base is in Kent Town, but we've got outreach sessions in Moulscombe, Hangleton, lots of schools, but we have all sorts of groups and some quite vulnerable people come to the club as well. So we were so important that we tried to keep in touch with them still. Personal invites, weren't they, Tim, were absolutely key to, ringing people up. Me and Anna Brooks, who run the Fitness Gold, would contact people, and everybody likes a personal invite, and that was incredible in sort of boosting people coming on, and then once they got the hang of it, have been coming ever since. We've also done things like postcards to our volunteers saying thank you, and we've kept in touch with our players in prison, the prisons we work with. They've been really appreciated, and quite quickly, Tim, didn't we set up a whole sort of cascade with our staff members and volunteers with phone calls to all our members just to check they're all okay. But the Zoom daily session, I mean, it has been just unbelievable what we've uncovered, hasn't it, Tim, of people's talents and what people have shared. It's not just table tennis and bat and ball skills, but we've had poetry, art, photography, singing, cooking, music, dance. It's just been absolutely unbelievable of what's been shared and the talents we've unearthed of people amongst our members. So yeah, that's been really, really special. Anything to add to that one, Tim?
No, nothing. That was perfect.
Lovely. So if we go on to the next slide then, David. Obviously, one of the things that the other thing, the club, we can't be playing table tennis there. As many of you may know, we have the Real Junk Food Project next door, linked with the church, where our Kent Town Club is based. And very quickly, Tim and the team realised that we could become a food hub during lockdown. So the picture you can see there of one of the amazing volunteers, Dan Peters, there's no table tennis clubs. Oh, you've clicked together, thank you. Has no table tennis tables. They've all been packed into a corner at the moment. But we have lots of vulnerable members that needed food parcels, but not just members. We were then getting recommendations of other people in the community, and obviously have worked with all these other projects. And this has been a real lifeline, not only obviously to the people that are getting the deliveries, but also I think we have 77 volunteers, don't we, Tim, on the last count from Charlie. And for many of them, they're used to helping at table tennis sessions every week, whether it's with the after school club or our other groups, special needs groups, and really they were missing that as well. So it's been great for the volunteers to still get stuck into something, you know, really important for them as well.
And that's been serving, well, there's 300 beneficiaries a week of the food hub. That's meals and food parcels, collection and delivery. And what's really good about our building is that the Fitzherbert Centre used to be the primary school attached to St John the Baptist. And in 2 weeks, the food hub that is currently in our table tennis hall is going to be moved around into part of the parish hall. Voices in Exile are upstairs, and they're also doing a food bank service. So there's where we're lucky that the church have got that parish hall that we can continue to use. So we're going to hopefully have some limited table tennis activities resuming at some point. But the food hub, the plan is to carry that on.
Yeah, brilliant. Lovely. And yeah, just the last one, we were obviously absolutely thrilled. It was noted right up in Sport England, Club Matters, with what was going on at the club, and they wanted to use us as an example for other community clubs across the country. And I think it was almost within the first couple of weeks, wasn't it, Tim, of them contacting us and saying, wow, this is incredible, your daily show. And they made a video about it. There is the link there. I don't know, David, if we've got time to show that little minute or so of it. What do you think?
Yeah, we can quickly give it a go here. Just bear with me.
Feels like a long time ago, doesn't it?
It does feel like, yeah, right at the beginning. Massively. So to know I've got that 5 o'clock show to look forward to when I see lots of faces has been absolutely incredible.
This daily show is an absolutely awesome show. I really recommend it. It highlights and showcases incredible talent. Tim Holtam hosts the show with Teresa, and between them they encourage all this wonderful diversity of talent.
Sports clubs, grassroots community sports clubs, are incredibly important places. So just do it, just try it and do it. And so someone needs to be on top of the technology. The regular time is good. We're doing Monday to Saturday at 5 o'clock, and then it's in everyone's diary. People want some sort of routine and formality. And then, amongst a little planning committee, can organise with the content. Make it about co-production and give people an opportunity to contribute, and you never know, they'll surprise you. We are.
And we just made a decision this morning that from next week we're going to reduce it to 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. By the end of August, that will get us up to show 100, and then we'll put it to bed. 100 shows, I think we'll do quite enough for that.
Well,
it's fun. It's fun. We do love it.
Yeah, and it's been a lifeline to people, and I think, but as now we can start playing on outdoor tables and things will gradually get back. But it's been fantastic and a way of keeping in contact. So yeah, lovely. I think that's it in a nutshell.
Thank you very much, Tim, Teresa. Yeah, really, really fascinating how you've been able to move what's usually a physical kind of community hub you know, focused on sports and activity and well-being, on creating that engagement and that energy you have at the club online. There's one question that's come up through the chat around, you mentioned, you know, you're working with a lot of vulnerable people on a normal day-to-day basis. How have you made sure, it's a question from Abby, thanks Abby for the question, how have you made sure no one is excluded due to the lack of access to tech, for instance, not everyone having a device or an internet connection to log on to Zoom and to the daily shows, or their lack of confidence if they are online using programs like Zoom? What kind of initiatives how have you tried to address some of those challenges?
Very early on, we had an instruction sheet put together of, you know, this is exactly step-by-step process of how you download the app, and, you know, people that didn't have WhatsApp, so lots of it's done on WhatsApp, the sort of schedules sent out and the sort of updates and any notifications go out on WhatsApp. Lots of people didn't have WhatsApp, let alone Zoom, but there was a lot of time spent over the phone, really, talking people through it, and it didn't work with everyone. There's some people that haven't been able to access the Zoom stuff. I don't think everyone wanted to, but there's definitely people that have slipped through the net, but we feel like we've done our best.
And those that we couldn't, Tim, we're very conscious, aren't we, of doing phone calls every week, and yeah, it is hard because if they haven't got an iPad or a computer, but yeah, you did, the computers have gone out of the office, haven't they, Tim, to needy people as well.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Tim and Teresa, for sharing that. And yeah, it sounds like the guidance, providing that support for people to get online. There's a lot of peer support out in Brighton and Hove through the Digital Brighton and Hove project. There's a lot of kind of volunteers providing remote support, but great that you acknowledge that that's not always helpful for everyone, and that just calling someone on the phone sometimes is a way of keeping in touch with them rather than trying to force them onto something they might not be comfortable with. So thanks for sharing that, Tim and Teresa. Thank you. We've got David Matthews on next from Grace Eyre Foundation. David, are you still with us?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Great. I'll load your slides up.
Thank you.
Over to you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, just following up from the table tennis there, which has got some amazing stories, to talk about our charity and sort of give you some context. We're a very, very service user led service that Active Lives provides activities for people, and Grace Eyre as a whole has multiple different systems that it operates. So we do supported living, we provide housing, we have shared lives placements, we have community outreach. Most of those services have been relatively unaffected in terms of their ability to deliver, whereas the Active Lives activity service fell into that. We've got to close the building, we've got to shut down our services, no one can come together. So if we just skip on to the next slide, thinking about before the pandemic sort of happened, the sort of scale that our service was focused around a large community hub, which had about 20 different group activities a day to around 90 people a day. And that would be a mix of sessions inside our main building, but also going out and using the community, such as coming over to the table tennis centre to join up over there. And we've been going for many years now. It's an amazing relationship. We also run multiple projects that work in a one-to-one kind of way, such as travel training, employment skills, health and nutrition, things like that, that work really well as one-to-ones for people. And then we also have the Friendship Project, which was completely set up as a social engagement activity. So it focused on bringing people together in, say, a pub or for a meal or for a trip to the theatre, to create the opportunities to make real friendships. And then what we want to see is those to split off and become just a standard friendship where they go off and have a coffee together, just the two of them. It's not an organised event. It doesn't have a staff member helping or lots of volunteers. They just go off and do exactly what everybody wants to do. So over the next couple of slides, I'm going to talk about how we changed the Friendship Project from something that was very much focused on face-to-face to an online system, and also how we sort of looked at our large group activity service. So if we just skip on to the next slide. So all the face-to-face activities stopped literally overnight. It was very shocking for everybody. They were all very concerned, and we could really see the gap in terms of the social connection, rather than the necessarily missing out on activity. It was the social connection. It's a very social centre that we have. So our friendship group was immediately tasked with focusing on going digital. And we have a lead in there called Charlotte, who suddenly had to develop a whole new set of skills and take that on. But also at the same time, we had to start thinking, how do we look to develop our activities in online sessions? And once it became clear that lockdown wasn't going to ease in any sensible way, we worked our way towards starting to begin trials of online activities for people. So if we just go on to the next slide. So the friendship group just, it's very honest and real. And one of my favorite things is Charlotte's picture on the left there, where she's experiencing what a lot of us do. I heard a few people at the beginning, my signal, my this. Charlotte actually has her internet out at home at the moment, typical for us, but we've been really open through this process with people that we're all learning something new. Things will go wrong. You know, this isn't about perfection. So that also puts everybody at ease when it does go wrong. And that's really helped people. And what we've sort of been building there is a community, because we've told pretty much everybody from day one of lockdown to join our Facebook group for friendship. So we have one target for everybody to be sent to. We've gone from having about 25 members to having 166 today. And what that means is we're starting to truly see a community start to interact. So rather than Charlotte having to sort of launch everything and say, hey, what have you done today? Or what are you doing today? Or do you want to talk about this? We're starting to see people just share their stories. So I made this today, whether that be a loaf of bread, and we've definitely seen a lot of bread, including prize-winning bread from some of the local bakeries, to puppets they've made, to runs they've done, and they're just talking about it and they're getting that interaction. So like the corner on the right there is about a lady that's done baking. You know, she went along with one of our baking instructions that we shared, and she's made it and she shared that, how it was. And it's probably too small to see on there, but she makes a joke about the washing up, like all of us. You want to make it, you want to like enjoy it, but the washing up bit, that's not great fun. And there's a load of engagement with that. Conversations happen, friendships start to form. I'm already seeing that the same sort of people might interact with certain individuals. And then when a new topic comes up, you'll suddenly see people that are interested in running share with another person that's interested in running. So we're really starting to see it. And what we're doing in the background is having some weekly activities, such as there's a highlight there of the music chat and quiz. So there's no pressure about performance in terms of getting the answers right. It's like, just come together, let's share a common interest. And because of Charlotte's tech issues, we've actually been able to hand over the ownership of that to the users of it. So the people we've set this all up to try and give it engagement are now just joining sessions with no volunteers, no staff, and just getting on with it, which has been wonderful to see. If you just skip on to the next slide. So once again, it's a bit small, but as you can see, we've created a very core set of activities for people to know when it happens and what day it happens. And that's basically a rock solid, like this will happen every week with us or without us, which is the really nice thing. So they know to turn up and get on with it. And we also do lots of polls within the friendship to try and figure out what do they want us to do? How would they like the next things to be evolved? This particular one is about the fact it's Friendship Week in the Learning Disability Awareness Week, which is really, really apt for today. And this is saying, what do you want us to do? How shall we market in our group? You know, and everyone wants to make nice posters at home. And so later on this week, they'll be sharing them. And by creating that and being very stable with it, and only having this one place that we kept on telling people to go to, we've brought enough people together that the community's functioning, and we've got regular engagement. I almost use the word attendance, but it's very different, this sort of thing. It's engagement. And that's been a great success through this period. And it was one of the the things that was really enjoyable to be able to share about when I've joined some of the Digital Brighton meetups before. So that's friendship. If we go on to the next slide, it's probably quite a busy slide if I remember rightly. This is about our online activities. So traditionally we do groups. We bring lots of people together that have a common interest in art, and they sign up for a mosaic course, or they sign up for a table tennis course, or anything. We run 90 different sessions a week in our normal engagement program. And since we began the trial, we got up to about 24 group activities a week. And there's a whole range of examples in here. We've got our dance for fitness going on in the bottom left corner. We've got our art groups going on in the bottom right corner. We have a chair yoga in the top right. In the top left, we have gardening via Zoom, where people are growing tomato plants and other items that we can do with or without a garden. And that was really nice. We tried to call it connecting to nature, and that didn't really hit home with anyone. We called it gardening, and everybody's come and they really enjoy it. And people are really enjoying just connecting, doing something. And in the center at the top there is just that positive sort of meaning to doing this. When we bring people together in whatever format for whatever type of thing, there's a real smile factor of them seeing people they recognize from their day at the services to suddenly engage, whether that be with the staff member or with other people in the group. It's been so nice, but it has been really challenging to develop a whole new range of skills for the staff that are leaving it, a whole new way of operating, a whole new way of having to communicate. We're using email, WhatsApp, Facebook, God knows what else. But just seeing it start to work, it has been amazing. So, you know, we're carrying on with that. We think online activities and things like the friendship group being digital rather than physical is going to be a really important thing for the next 9 to 12 months. We don't see it necessarily being able to drop away in October or anything like that. We think it's going to be a really important part of keeping many people that might choose not to come out of isolation for a while, whether that's because they're shielding or there's just not something that interests them to bring them out and take those next steps. And we've done a lot of work because a lot of the people we work with do live either with family or with some form of professional care. And we've done a lot of work with those because around 20 of those didn't even have an email address when we went into lockdown. And they'd always refused to get an email address because we like to communicate via email. It saves the charity a lot of money on mail outs and things like that if we can send out. And we now got down to, I think it's just under 10 people left now that won't get an email address. Everybody else is starting to catch up. So people are realizing that right now, everything's happening online and they need to overcome some of those anxieties around doing that. And we've been able to support them ourselves in some cases, or recommend them through the COVID response page on the Digital Brighton information, where they can get bigger help, such as maybe being able to get funding or get donated a piece of kit, and also get a volunteer that can help train them. I don't personally know how many people have taken that next step with that, but we've really been recommending out there because it's so important in this moment, and we're really seeing that benefit for the individuals that are coming on and doing it. And it has been a real shift, and Active Lives would probably not have taken this step for a very long time in any meaningful way for online activities. We were a direct delivery service, and it is still what our core sort of port model should be and will be, but this has just been great. The friendship group is just fantastic, and we're seeking more funding for that so we can really develop it and spread it out more openly across the county, because we do have a lot of people that are in Brighton and Hove, but Grace Eyre as a whole cover London and West Sussex, and we sometimes have projects in East Sussex. So we've got a lot of work to do, but we're really, really positive about what the tech can do, and we're really seeing great engagement at the moment. So that's me.
That's really exciting, David. Thank you. I think particularly the rise in numbers, I think, is incredible. Obviously, the ability for people to engage who might not have been able to attend some of those other events, as you say, I mean, that geographic spread as well. That's absolutely fantastic. We've got a question in the chat here from Sam Hart. You talked about skills and needing new skills. Did you do anything particularly to prepare service users for the different communication skills? To be able to give us a little bit of information about that?
So we had very little time. So our traditional preparing people was very limited. So as we developed the friendship group, because that went first, we kept on sharing a easy to follow guide, easy read guide to join in the Facebook group. So, or how even to join Facebook if they didn't have an account or didn't have someone that could join for them. Because some have joined through, like, say, a family member or a group account, then that's been fine. But we sent out like easy read versions to try and help. We talk to a lot of people, and we do ongoing continue to talk. We make a lot of phone calls every week across the whole organisation. We try and check in with pretty much everybody every week to check on their well-being, and then we can talk if there's any challenges. And only today I had a phone call from one of the people going, I haven't got my Zoom invite for my dance class today. And we're going through all the steps, and it's like, okay, I think I can do it this way. Can you open this app? And we're talking it through. And, you know, that's a person that really struggles with literacy, but we managed to do it over the phone and talk through typing in the passwords and getting on. And then just about 20 minutes later, I get sent a picture from the lead of the session going, oh, it's brilliant to have this person back. But yeah, we found a lot of talking was really good. Very limited time to prepare people though. And we've really worked with their circles of support.
That's great, thank you. I think that final point there as well, actually, in terms of the people who are already there, either living with them or providing some support and being able to use that. But I think, you know, reflecting what Tim and Teresa said earlier as well about that ongoing personal contacts by telephone or whatever it is to kind of to shore up that. There's a couple of questions in there in terms of safeguarding or issues using a Facebook group in this way. It's quite a detailed one. I don't know if we wanted to take that now, or I know that what we're hoping to do is also continue these sessions later on. It may be that that's something that we focus on. David, would that be your suggestion?
Yeah, I think we can definitely pick some of those up after the talks. And also, if anyone feels like they can share some resources based on those questions, please do add them in the chat or the Google Doc. I know there's lots of useful info around safeguarding and around providing that support for vulnerable people that may not be confident going online. And I've posted a link in the chat that summarizes all the kind of service offers out there in Brighton and Hove. So I suggest, I know we're really pressed for time, we've got a packed agenda. We invite Rebecca, who works for White Sussex, to share some of the work you've been doing, Rebecca, around engaging with your members online through Slack and through different portals that we may have not heard of. So I'm just going to go into stop the screen share, so we all see. We're back in gallery view. Check if Rebecca's with us.
I am here.
Great.
Thank you. I'm suddenly really aware. I chose not to do a PowerPoint because, to be honest, all I would be sharing is pictures of Slack or a Zoom chat. So I thought it'd be nice to actually see your faces. But now I'm realised that I'm going to sort of talk to you about embracing technology, but I've actually got a piece of paper in front of me. So do bear with me. So for those of you who don't know White Sussex, we are a membership organisation for digital media and tech companies across Sussex. We support our members, and we've got about 2,000 members of a huge variety. So some really small organisations, some huge organisations. And we support them in all the ways that you would expect from a membership organisation. So we help to share resources with them. We run events for them. We have a jobs board, which is where most people know White Sussex from. And importantly, something which a lot of people didn't realise we did until sort of COVID, is we do a lot of advocacy for our members as well. So we've been speaking a lot to government about the challenges that our sector has been facing. So my role at White Sussex is Skills and Talent Strategy Lead, so which basically means that I work with our members to understand the challenges that they face around attracting, training and retaining talent. And then I work with them to develop new projects and initiatives to address that. And I also work with people who want to get into the sector to make sure that opportunity is widespread, to help to inspire and empower people to begin their digital careers, and also to help people take the next steps in their careers. So David kindly asked me to join you today to talk about two things. One thing I'm going to talk about is our sort of big annual flagship event that I run called Talent Fest, which is a week-long digital skills festival that's been going for about 6 years, that we pivoted to be entirely online this year, and also to talk to you a little bit about how we have continued to build and support a community online during lockdown. So I'm going to talk about those two examples and pull out a little bit about how we moved them online, how I tried to sort of make sure that accessibility was not left off the agenda whilst you're pivoting so quickly, and to talk about some of the challenges and also some of the benefits that we found of doing that. One thing that really struck me when I was hearing some of the other talks that maybe is slightly different about Wide Sussex is most people that we engage with are very digitally savvy. A lot of people work in digital. A lot of these tools that we've developed have been informed by our members. They sort of told us what to use. We've sort of been led by them. So I think that was quite important. But also, one thing that was really sort of at the forefront of my mind is that whilst a lot of people who work in digital have the skills, particularly people who are furloughed or people who are looking to get into the industry, don't necessarily have access to the technology to take part in a lot of the things that we're doing. So that's sort of been a consideration as we've gone along as well. So a little bit more about Talent Fest. As I said, Talent Fest is an annual event that we run at Wide Sussex. We'd had big aspirations for Talent Fest 2020. We wanted it to be the biggest event that the biggest festival we'd ever run. We wanted to increase its breadth from a 3-day festival to a week-long festival, and we wanted to reach outside of Sussex. So part of the idea of the festival is to attract people to Sussex. So the only way we could do that was to get people from outside Sussex attending. And to be honest, moving it online actually really enabled us to do that in a way that I think we wouldn't have maybe had the bravery, I suppose, to do otherwise, to sort of throw out a model that we've developed over the past 6 years. But we, through moving it online, we increased the number of events that we ran. So we actually ran 6 events over the week with 20 hours of content. We had over 1,100 attendees, 40 universities engaged with it. And we not only had people from Sussex attend, but there were people from across the UK, from Scotland, from Spain, from Germany, from San Francisco, from Canada. So it was really gave us an audience that we'd never otherwise have had. So I think for us, it's been a real sort of, it's been a real point of innovation that we maybe otherwise wouldn't have taken. So the way that we did it, and I'll post it in the chat because I actually wrote a blog post on this, and quite a lot of companies have been speaking to us about ways that they can sort of take a similar approach. And the way that we really started with thinking about how to move Talent Fest online was to think about why do we do it? And I think that's really important. I feel quite lucky because Wide Sussex is actually based in a space that we started called the Fusebox, which is an innovation hub. And so we're always surrounded by people that are innovating and trying something new. And the question that always is asked is why? And so I think that was the fundamental question before we did anything, was to really focus on what is the benefit that we wanted to achieve through the festival and through the individual events. And then redeveloping a sort of, you almost have to forget what you've done before and focus on how you're going to achieve that purpose. So then once we'd sort of understood what that core purpose was, we started to explore some of the platforms that were available. And this sort of covers a little bit of the challenges, because I don't know if anyone can remember back to the start of lockdown, which feels like a hugely long time ago, but tools and platforms were being spoken about so rapidly, and everyone started off trying to get Skype to work, and then everyone chucked Skype out, and then they moved to Google Meet and then Zoom, and all of these different platforms were being developed, and it was really hard to understand which platforms would be best for us and for our audience. And what we decided to do was to go back to that question of why, and actually we realized that for all the different events that we were running, they all needed slightly different platforms, and that was okay, so long as it was okay for our audience. So I think really it's about understanding the different platforms that are available, and how it will work best for your teams. And also I think this is something that was said earlier, but accepting that it's going to be messy. I think for me, who's someone who's definitely a planner, I struggled with the fact that I wasn't going to be able to sit down on day one and actually map out a whole festival whilst things were so changeable, and just being open to that. So they were sort of the core things on how we moved it online, was focusing on why we were doing it, exploring the different platforms, and being flexible in that messy space to sort of to go with what was most appropriate. And then thinking about how to make the festival accessible, I actually realised that we had an opportunity to that we did think about some people facing. There was also a lot of opportunities to reach out to audiences who may struggle to come to a 1,000-person jobs fair, or may struggle to go to a conference where they have to interact with other people. So we first of all, when we were considering the platforms, we wanted to try and make sure that they were spaces that our members knew. So we tried to use Google Meet because that was very popular with our members. We used YouTube because that was known as quite a simple tool. So I think finding platforms that are familiar for people, and also I think it was someone else has said that, or I think we've all said, actually supporting people to navigate those new tools. So we've done lots of how-to videos that we send out to people before coming along to an event, so they have a bit of awareness of what it is you're actually tuning into. And also things that are available on multiple devices. So not everyone has a laptop, not everyone has a mobile phone. It's trying to find the right platforms that are the most accessible to the broadest audience. We always try to have an anticipatory welcome, which is difficult when you don't know the platforms and the barriers that people may face on those platforms, but we tried to do as much user testing on them as possible, and to make sure that we had considered barriers that people may face. And also in our comms that we were putting out, we made sure to say to people that if they did face any barriers, that there was an actual person that they could speak to. So it wasn't, you know, just saying drop an email to info@ if it's a way you can't, if there's anything sort of stopping you from being able to interact with this event. We actually, you know, put a person's name, put a telephone number, and really try to encourage people to speak to us about any sort of anything that would stop them from being able to take part. And also, I think with events generally, what we try to do now is, you know, with the jobs fair that we ran, there were a number of talks, and my gut instinct was to run all of those as live talks, but actually that wasn't particularly accessible because everyone has so many balls in the air at the moment. So what we decided to do is to pre-record all of our talks and then make them all live throughout the whole day. And then we got speakers to sort of join in on chat and things like that, so that there could be interaction, but people weren't held to a particular time for an arbitrary reason. So I think I've covered most of the challenges that we'd faced, sort of around all of the options available, knowing the platforms, but I think some of the benefits, just to echo what's been discussed previously really, is the wider reach. So we've reached a much broader geographic region than we ever have done before. And also it's allowed people who otherwise would have struggled to come to some of our events to have that first interaction with us. For example, at our jobs fair, we're really passionate about supporting return to work parents. We have a family room at the jobs fair. We really try and make people feel that they are welcome But it's been really hard to get any take up on that. But we saw a lot more return to work parents at the virtual event, and we're trying to continue those conversations with those people now, so that when we do return to having live events, they still feel welcome in the same way. So that's Talent Fest. I'll pop a link to a blog that I wrote about the process, which sums it up in probably a much more succinct way. But I'll put that in there, and if anyone has any questions, then feel free to. I'll put my email address as well. I'm going to quickly just move on to community engagement. As I said, we have 2,000 members, and we really wanted to try and support them through lockdown. And we knew that one of the best ways to do that was to connect them with each other. We obviously can support in all the ways that we're able to, but a lot of the benefit of Wide Sussex is to be a conduit between our members and for them to learn from each other. So we decided the best way to do that was to engage our members in a platform that they already know and used, which was Slack. I don't know if that's widely used by people in other sectors, but Slack is sort of the go-to communication tool for a number of our member companies. So we set up a Slack channel, which I think's now got about 650 of our members connected through that. In terms of making it accessible, it's a tool that's freely available. People can download it onto their mobiles or onto their laptops. And as I say, it felt like it was the most accessible because it was the most used and the most known. But what we were aware of is that Slack can become quite overwhelming quite quickly because there's so much content on there. So what we've done is to break down the Slack channel into lots of group, like discussion areas. So we have things like introducing yourself. We have a channel for government announcements, a channel for needs. So if a member needs something in particular, they can post it in there and other members can offer support. Things like best practice on remote working or diversity. So there's lots of these sub-channels so that people can dip into things which are related to what they've come there to discuss. And also, again, we have a designated contact so that if anyone does have any questions or if anyone can't figure out how to use it, then we have my colleague Hannah who moderates the whole Slack channel and is there as a sort of a friendly face that people can turn to. In terms of the challenges of using Slack, we'd actually thought that moderating it was going to be a huge task, but we found that by having the designated channels and by having clear descriptions in those channels of what their purpose is, people have been quite good at navigating and moderating that themselves. And also, I think this is just a side point with other sort of online community groups that I help to run. I think we were in quite a unique position because we had a ready-made audience, but I think if you are building these digital online communities remotely, it's a long and difficult task to get that engagement. So I think anyone who is doing that, it can feel lonely sometimes if you feel like you're just talking to yourself, but I think in a lot of these forums, people can be quite passive, and I would say don't feel that you're talking into a void. You know, a lot of the time you are having impact, even if it isn't always, if it doesn't feel it in the moment. The benefits really of us using our Slack channel is it gave real-time engagement. We're a really small team at Wide Sussex. We try and send out fortnightly, we send out fortnightly newsletters, but particularly at the start of lockdown, that wasn't quick enough, and we needed a way that we could really quickly share information with our members and allow them to share information with each other. So that was a great benefit. It also provided a voice for everyone. Although we are a membership organisation, we didn't limit access to the Slack group only to our members. We wanted it to be open for anyone who feels that they would benefit from those resources to access it, and also to have a voice to share and to support each other. And also it's given us more engagement outside of Brighton as well. Quite often people from outside Brighton struggle to come into our events, maybe don't engage with us as much as people a little further afield. So it's actually been a really great way for us to increase some of that engagement. And I think that all of my whistle-stop tour of Wide Sussex over lockdown.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much, Rebecca. We've got a couple of things going on in the chat there. And I just want to be clear that earlier on I wasn't I wasn't dismissing the issues around safeguarding. It's absolutely an issue, but it's quite a big issue. So I think it's something we will probably look to focus on at another one of these sessions. But yes, absolutely, there are concerns, and if you are going to be seeing into someone's house, then you need to look at it in terms of, you know, the sorts of risks you might imagine if you were going to be in someone's room as well. But there are some very specific things. I think, Ellie, are you able to answer the question around the different platforms?
Yes, so I've actually just posted something in the chat. I was going to say, actually, in terms of Hannah's question, does a document exist that has done pros and cons list of different platforms out there for building communities online? I think that will be so context specific, really. I think there's going to be a lot of individual kind of needs that you'll probably need to take into account there, but that said, there is definitely some starting points that might be useful. So I've directed to a blog that we've published relatively recently on the Catalyst site, and then one of the partners, SCBO, had a really good podcast on this as well. So it's going to be quite dependent on your own users and their needs, I would imagine, so worth kind of understanding exactly kind of what preferences and behaviors they've got. But Rebecca, did you come across any when you were going through to select yours?
There's so many. There's so many, and to be honest, we have our members meetup tonight, and we're trialing a whole new platform that we've never used before called Holtam. We haven't really used Zoom. I think it really, and I started looking at Talent Fest because I realised I didn't say, but the events that run through the week are all very different. So we ran 70 one-to-ones between people who want to get into the industry and digital studios. We had a huge jobs fair with talks and masterclasses, and we had industry conferences, we had business workshops. And so I had to sort of very quickly think about different platforms for lots of different types of events. And I think that it's not a good answer, but I think there isn't an easy answer. I think you just have to have a little bit of a play with them and to see what works best for what you need. I think for me, I quite like Google Meet because it's something I just know, and I just send a link to people and it's super easy. So I used that sort of instinctively. Although having said that, I used it when I was arranging these 70 one-to-ones, which would run 10 at a time. And then I realized that I could actually, I had to hear the sound of all 10 one-to-ones running simultaneously. So for 2 hours, I was listening to 10 simultaneous conversations. So you don't always make the right choice. But I think you only learn what's right by testing them. And what we've really tried to do with our events is to say to our members, we're learning this and we're learning it with you, for you. So for our members meetup tonight on Hopin, it's a bit of an experiment. We've made a how-to video and we're just going to see how it goes. And so I think also it's not only experimenting with the platform, but with the format. So I was joking earlier, I think I'm doing 7 hours worth of events today. So I'm getting a real whistle-stop tour of all the platforms. But this morning I was running a breakfast session for our members. And historically, those events are about an hour to an hour and a half with a panel. But for me, that content was better delivered in a short half-hour cup of coffee with some of our members. So we've just changed that. And rather than it being one event for an hour and a half, we're doing 3 half-hour events over a couple of weeks. So I think it's not just thinking about the platform, it's thinking about the whole format. And that's what I was saying about just throwing out what you used to do and just coming back to why is it you're doing what you're doing.
Great, thank you, that's fantastic. We are, I think now probably, because we're running a little bit late, as ever on these things, but we're going to now put you into breakout rooms. Ellie, are you able to explain how this works? Because I'm not entirely sure, and if people have already been pre-assigned, and then I can maybe go through the sorts of questions we'd ask people to think about in those groups.
Yep, absolutely. So, yep, you'll be in rooms of 5 or 6 to a room. Hopefully you'll be with a mix of people that you might not have met before. And one of the things that we might suggest is that you kind of just make sure that everybody gets a chance to speak. So the kind of idea behind these breakout rooms is that you have a chance to reflect on what's been said and what it means to you, and also kind of share some stuff that you're getting up to as well. So we're going to have 15 minutes in breakout rooms. There we go, 2 questions there. And all of the rooms are now ready, so as soon as I get the green light, you can whiz off and then come back and we'll share from that as well, any kind of reflections that come from your room chats.
Okay. Yeah. Does anybody want to feedback just the thoughts within their breakout group? Anything that particularly struck them first of all about the talks?
Right, say something.
Mm.
So we were just talking about, I think most of us in our group, I work for Sussex prisoners' families, and we have quite we have normal support groups that we've had for several years, and I was talking about how they can be quite emotional, and we rely a lot on body language, and people cry a lot and hug each other, and we were talking about the worries. We don't necessarily want to create that online because we're aware that people are going back, all of a sudden just disappearing from Zoom and going back into their, and I suppose how we negotiate those things and things like body language that are really, really important to those kinds of groups. And we kind of get the fun stuff. We get the kind of doing really fun things like cooking and table tennis and sharing things, but it's not quite the same thing. So yeah, no,
I understand, and it's about creating a safe space. Sorry, a space that's safe, not just in terms of sort of cybersecurity, if you like, but that is safe for people whilst they're in there in terms of their experiences, and for afterwards. And I think it's an ongoing question. I've not heard anybody who's managed to come back with brilliant solutions, but I think that we're definitely, certainly at Community Works, it's what we're trying to gather information on. A lot of the mental health organisations obviously are also doing as much as they can, but it is that group situation rather than the one-to-one that I think is where we're trying to learn about the differences and the challenges and how to manage that. So yeah, really keen to hear anything, but we'll keep sharing that information too.
Thank you.
Anybody else got anything that they want to feedback? Any other questions that they want to respond to? Anything that came up in their groups? No, David, Ellie, was there anything particularly that you wanted to feedback?
I think I jumped into a couple of groups, and definitely safeguarding and creating that safe environment and managing that risk is something that is coming up a lot, both in the chat and in the breakout rooms. So I know there are quite a few sessions or conversations that have already happened on that issue. So we should probably make sure we share that in the Google Doc. And also there might be scope or potential to do a specific session, a meetup around, we know how to do the fun stuff. We know how to engage on Slack or Zoom. How do we make sure that's done in a safe environment for different types of client groups that might have different needs? So just a reflection.
Are there any kind of working groups that we can share our experiences with? Can we just tell you, or what or
nothing active that I'm aware of at the moment, but always open to that possibility. So yes, I mean I can get in touch with you offline, Sam, and anybody else who wants to talk to me about it. We'll see if we can move that forward. Because I think quite possibly it could be something that turns into a session in itself. I think there's a lot of queries and concerns, rightly so, but also a real understanding there's a need to carry on doing those. Ellie?
Yeah, I'd be really interested in following up with you as well, Sam, on from a Catalyst network perspective. We've sort of a national network of people working on various issues at the moment in response to COVID, and safeguarding is probably one of, if not the most frequently mentioned thing. So there's loads of people working on it in really interesting ways. So really would love to follow that.
And also, sorry to keep going, I'll just really quickly, also things like how you behave on Zoom, like how you being aware that somebody won't be there to give you a hug, so are you in the right space to do it before you go on? And maybe you have to be more demonstrative with your body language. I don't know, maybe you have to be really grin a lot or look really sad, so people know that you're actually sad because they can't see what your body's doing. It's all new, isn't it? It's interesting.
It is. I think it is interesting. Sorry, Rupert, did you want to?
I was going to say, we had we set up a lot of Zoom groups which replicated our drop-in groups. So we had the same sort of groups that had people that knew themselves from our real centres in the same drop-ins, and we had created what we thought was a sort of robust set of rules. And in the first few meetings, we had people smoking because they were sat at home in their home, and they were kind of like, well, I'm going to sit here and smoke. And obviously in the real drop-in centres, we obviously have a no smoking rule, and we had to kind of go back and just look at some of those rules again and just say to people, I know you're at home, but you know, if you could mind not smoking when you're on Zoom. And you know, there's a few little things like that that kind of came up.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I think actually what's been interesting that I've seen is, and there's almost the potential for improvement there, that because of the way that platforms like this work, and people aren't able to speak all at the same time, you actually sometimes get a situation, you sometimes get a space where people are listening more to others and giving other people that opportunity. And in some ways, there's actually a positive there as well. Jo, did you want to come in on that?
Well, similar point actually, which was one of the speakers earlier was saying about you know, being honest about working it out together as you go along, kind of thing. I didn't mention this in our little breakout group. Oh, sorry, I've totally lost my ability to speak. But we actually had a team of 6 people new starters as employers on the week of the 23rd when lockdown started. So we had to shift their entire induction, their training, their getting to know everybody onto Zoom and onto phone calls. And they still haven't physically met each other, let alone their manager or the rest of the team. And it's been really challenging, but they found some really imaginative ways around it. And one of the things that they fed back was the fact that the recruiting manager and another person in the team were basically doing that exact thing, which was, right, this is the first time we've done training on Zoom. We're not entirely sure how everything works, so bear with us. And, you know, oh, we're going to get it wrong, but then let's not worry about it. And it gave everybody else a chance to say, do you know what, I've not had a meeting on Zoom before either, and I'm really worried about it. And so it became a communal bonding experience in the absence of getting to know someone in the same physical room as you. It was quite useful. So a bit of honesty is usually helpful.
Absolutely. Sometimes turns the tables as well. Sometimes those people who you might normally anticipate being in a position of greater power can be the ones who are the most technically illiterate, if you like. And sometimes that's interesting. It changes dynamics in a team. So yeah, absolutely. Is there anything else that anybody wants to feedback, or should we move on to Ellie and David, if you want to talk about any of the other resources that people might want to look at in the meantime?
Yeah, we've got 5 minutes, so I'm quickly going to whiz through some further resources and support. Some of these links have already been posted in either the chat or the Google Doc. We will assemble everything into the Google Doc, so that's going to be the kind of go-to Bible of support moving forward. Digital Brighton and Hove, I mentioned that partnership. There's a COVID-19 sort of specific page where you get sort of all the kind of different support offers, and there's a specific section for local community organisations who need support. So not just helping service users get online, but also how we support that at an organisational level. I mentioned the digital volunteers. We've also stuck some digital resources and guides, including a number from Catalyst and other networks that are sort of collating this stuff for our organizations. So this is kind of a bit of a summary of what's out there, as well as digital offers and discounts. Charity Digital provide lots of discounts for charities if you're needing some software or some specific platform you want to try out. So have a look at those. And there's also some really useful links that Ellie shared in the chat. There's some great stuff happening in Scotland where they do these sorts of peer support sessions at scale. So they're collating a lot of really useful information. It can be quite overwhelming, but they're really structuring it very nicely as they move along onto their website. So have a look at those. I'm sure there's stuff around safeguarding and the things we've discussed there today. And then Rebecca mentioned Slack. We have got Tech for Good Brighton Slack community. We've got about 170 odd people on there. It's not a particularly sort of active and energized space, probably because we don't really have the resources at the time to energize online and to moderate that space, but you can go and post some needs and offers on there. You can also kind of just a good way of maybe trying to contact someone directly. You can do direct messages on Slack, and it's quite a useful tool. And we definitely kind of we're trying to move people onto these sort of spaces beyond emails. I think we're all getting a little bit overwhelmed with emails, and COVID-19 has definitely finished me off with my my relationship with emails. So there's some links there. You can join it. It's free. Just join and give it a go. And then we're also on Meetup. So we announce other events and communicate with some of our members in the community on Meetup. We've got just under 700 members there. So again, another tool to try out and to test out, to announce events, and quite an informal sort of platform which we enjoy using. And then Ellie, you've got loads of things that you're curating and pulling together on Catalyst, and if you want to jump in here.
Yeah, just very quickly say the catalyst.org.uk is a network of different organisations trying to support charities through this time. And so it's a collation of some of the best bits that various people are creating and collating. And there's services in there that can do everything from sort of free one-to-one support to all the way up to kind of teams that can help you build new digital products and services, if that's kind of where you're at. So yeah, lots of, almost too much there to really cover, but there's if there's anything else that you found that we need to add, then we're always looking for things to add to that list as well. And we're testing kind of different ways to make it a little bit more user-friendly for people. So it might not look quite like this screenshot, but hopefully you'll be able to find some stuff that's useful.
Thanks, Ellie. There's lots out there. Thank you for staying with us beyond 5. You're not on the beach yet or in a queue looking for something to buy, which is great. We're starting the series. We want to do it monthly. We want it to be helpful. It needs to be for you. So we've got a 2-minute survey. Survey is a big word, just a bit of feedback, and that's where you can sort of chip in with the sort of themes or sub themes that you'd like to cover. If we're running these sorts of monthly meetups, sorry, I can't talk anymore. And we will announce a date in July, probably early first half of July, and carry on this topic and carry on these conversations with some other guests who'll be sharing some of the good work they've been doing. And I think we've got Joe from Together Co, who's joined us today, who'll be sharing some of the work they've been doing during COVID and moving a lot of their work online. So please take a couple of minutes before you leave to fill that link in. I'm going to stop share now, and I'll put the link in the chat quickly if it's not already there.
I've just done that, actually.
You've done that, brilliant.
It should be there. Hold on a second. Yeah.
Some of our speakers left because they had to move on to other sessions or childcare. So thanks to Tim, Teresa, Rebecca and David. It's been really, really great. I've enjoyed it. I hope it was helpful. Yeah, please drop your feedback in the Smart Survey link. And I don't know if Fabia, Ellie, you want to say last words?
I suppose just for me, just to say that this is like, as David said, this is the beginning. And we know that there's lots of other things that we've started. You know, this will have raised a lot of questions for people. So, you know, we are going to be looking at how we can move forward and do more of these sessions so we can bring some more of those answers. But yeah, absolutely, it's great to see so many people here.
And well done to the 17 that managed to make it through to the very end. Hooray!
Thank you, everyone.